hold on.
platform
Somebody
and
just linked a tweet where Luna is essentially calling me a pedophile. I feel like
I know the
Luna...
tweet you're talking about. Do you want to read the tweet and tell me exactly what it says?
Vaush gets kicked off of platforms for saying cracker, but not for saying pedophilia can be good for children. Sick fucking world.
Which is an exact quote that you said.
No.
You play the video that it's linked to. Tell me that it's not
The
a
video
direct
cuts
quote.
me off mid-sentence. It literally
I
cuts
didn't
me
say
off
cut
in
you off.
between.
You did say that, though. She referenced something you actually said. You could defend yourself and say that was taken out of context or whatever.
Like, it's interesting that you would take issue with saying a person's a stepchild of the country that they're from, but the idea of, like, signal boosting...
Bastardized stepchild, to be fair.
Disingenuous, far-right, pedo jacketing, that was literally cut off mid-sentence, isn't itself bad faith or disingenuous. Like, that's really weird to me. I don't understand.
She wasn't just talking about you. She was talking about the way platforms work. I think that you would agree.
No. Dylan, did you see Vaush's debate with non-compete? Oh God, there's so much content. There's so much content. Okay. Can we do it? How long is it? It was like 15 minutes long. Okay, fine, we'll watch it. Okay, fine, we'll watch it. Can anybody send me the debate with non-compete? We'll watch it quick, okay? So, the thing is, right? Vaush is banned, so we can't have him on stream. But we can watch him talk on stream, because we just can't feature him. Somebody send it to me. This is going to be an interesting turn of events, long after the beginning of Destiny's Lefty arc with non-compete and eventually Luna. I don't really have any problems with non-compete. We probably are completely opposite spectrums when it comes to like political action, but he was always nice to me, and so I try to be nice to people who are generally nice to me. For example, me and Q, also used to be known as Quarantine, we're actually still friendly, even though we probably disagree on like 90% of political prescription. I would say maybe 60%. Well, not okay. So we're both on the left, so I would say we agree on 60%, disagree on 40%. And Oski, thank you so much for the tier 1. What about Luna? I don't know enough about Luna, but I know enough that I think I disagree probably. I know he released a title reviewing, not Lumi's, but Luna's video that would said something like, dumb video gives me brain damage or something. It was like something that basically was like, her video's stupid, right? So that might be what they're talking about, I don't know. Okay, so this is non-compete in Vaush, so let's watch.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just continuing to yeah, okay. All right. So yeah, thank you for agreeing to talk to me. I want to set this up by saying there is overlap between our audiences, and some of the people who watch your stream and watch mine have told me that I should reach out to you and talk to you, and they said you would be reasonable. I don't watch a ton of your content. So I'm taking their word for it and gonna talk. I want to talk to you in good faith, and I know that there has been what some might consider drama or beef going on between you, me, and Luna, and some other people developing for some time. So I just want to address that and give you the opportunity to respond to some questions and things like that. So does that all sound like what we kind of agreed to in the emails?
Yeah, my pleasure. No, this is a bit of a novelty for me. Normally when people disagree with me, they sort of just take shots on Twitter. I actually have a lot of respect for people who like hashing it out. Whatever my reputation might precede, I do actually enjoy just calmly talking about disagreements, But yeah, hit me up. You sent me an email the other day,
great video quality.
Some people in chat were complaining like you put out a video shit talking me, but in the email, to your credit, you did say, hey, I'm gonna put this video out, so don't interpret this as some kind of like sneaky, so yeah, I don't think they have anything to complain about.
Yeah, and then also, people have differences about what's appropriate and what's not. One of the reasons I put the video out before the conversation was because I wanted to kind of formulate my thoughts and have some sort of basis to speak on. So I do want to.
Somebody just said troglodyte is a good insult for somebody who's stupid. I actually like cave dweller more. I think cave dweller might be something I'm going to use.
I do want to try to get your Yeah, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to some of the things I said. I doubt you've had time to watch it because it was a very long video, and you know, it's only been like maybe 11 hours since I uploaded it. So
No, I'm afraid I have not. I saw some people in my community reacting to it. Some liked it, some didn't. You know, I'm known for having a disagreeable community, so I guess I'll see when I see.
Wait a minute, let me just. Okay, so all right, so yeah, I think we're all on the same page about that stuff. So the meta discussion, I guess, is out of the way. We can talk about the real issues.
Yeah, hit me out.
Okay, so there's three things, and I told you in the email, like three things I really wanted to kind of talk about, and the first thing is about, and I don't expect this to be a very long discussion. The first part, I wanted to just talk about the responsibility that we have as creators that have a large platform, right? So like. You and I both have pretty large platforms. I've got like over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. You have, I don't know, what are you up to now? You're pretty big.
It's like 360, 370, somewhere there, I think.
Yeah. Well, you have a ton of people watch your stream. I mean, you have very impressive numbers in terms of watching your live streams. So I think it's safe to say that we both have pretty substantial platforms.
One day, Dylan Burns is gonna come from the back, pass them all. You'll see. One of these days, okay? Through malicious or non-malicious means.
Platforms. So I guess the first question I would ask is just in general, do you agree with me that when somebody has a large platform, it comes with a certain responsibility?
Yes.
Okay. I figured you'd agree with me on that. And do you also agree that part of that responsibility is trying to develop an understanding of your audience? And because, you know, your audience is not a monolith, my audience is not a monolith. There are different kind of like sort of divisions within every audience, right? So you kind of have to get to know your audience and understand how the different sections of your audience are likely to react, and just kind of be familiar with your audience, right? And so, I mean, do you agree with that? I guess I'll ask first.
I don't know if it's a moral obligation, but it's definitely a good idea.
Okay, yeah. Well, here's why I think that, I don't know about the word moral, but here's why I think it's important for people, especially doing political activity, you know, like discussing political topics and that sort of thing. I think it's important because obviously we influence our audiences, right? And if you were doing like unboxing streams or
we all believe in you, Dylan. Also, you catch Smiling Friends episode 2. I'm gonna watch the stuff right when stream ends, probably. That, and play some Bannerlord and do some paperwork for the local boards and stuff that I'm doing.
or just like let's play videos or whatever. You know, I think that the degree of responsibility can vary, but when you're talking about political things, you're influencing people politically, and you also have to know that there will be like mutual impact. So like you might say things and then they'll go out and do things, and vice versa, right? So I guess that's the basis of my next question, which is, you must realize that because you debate people on the far right quite a bit, and because of the nature of what you do with your debate streams and that sort of thing, that there are a large number of right-wing people who watch your show.
I don't know if there are a large number of right-wing people who watch my show. There probably is a good number of politically undifferentiated people, but
I would say my show, which is more about a lot of times actually hosting conversations necessarily than just me debating right-wingers, but I also do that, probably has a higher percentage of right-wingers than Vaush's chat. And any lefty in my community, put a 1 in chat if you've ever seen like righties and lefties go back and forth in my chat before, or you know some usernames in my chat that are right-wing, right? Put a 1 in chat if you know that, right? Because it happens consistently. And the thing is, well, that's a lot of fucking ones. Holy shit. 1 million times? And that's my mod saying that. Okay. And the reason why is simple. I want to have people who disagree with me watch my show. I don't want a circle jerk. Why would I start a political talk show just to have people who agree with me already say, yes, Dylan, you're so correct? The whole point is to get people to agree with you, to move from their position and agree with you. Or, here's another reason you could do it, get them active in politics, which I've tried to do both, to varying levels of success. I've gotten a lot of, I'm getting more and more emails about people who are getting politically active, which I'm super happy about after I made some instructional videos on how to get active in politics. And I've seen a lot of people who said I was becoming very radicalized. And Dylan, you kind of brought me back in through the hippy dippy or through this or through that. And that's pretty cool. So, yeah, I think I have a higher percentage. I don't know. Maybe I would say 15% would be a number in my head that I think lands around where it is. Maybe.
At least in the communities that I've seen and cultivated, my YouTube comments, my Discord, my Reddit, whatever. I think the closest right bent I have is an annoying group of liberals who insist on watching me. Apart from that, I don't think I have many hard right followers.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not. I don't want to use any like loaded terms like audience or followers or community. I just think that it stands to reason that if you're regularly having discussions with people on the far right, there will be some overlap between your audiences. Some of them are going to come over and like hate watch you. You know, like I even get hate watchers on my channel, so I know there's
I have hate watchers on my show. I also have people who disagree with me, but they're respectful. But I think that's good. I think it's good to have that, because that's how you change people's minds. A lot of times people will go into a show, I fucking hate this motherfucker. Then they'll listen to him, and then walk away. A great example, actually. I wanted to talk about this, but we'll probably have to do that another day. Good example, if you go to my Twitter, I went on JLP, you know, Jesse Lee Peterson's. I went on his talk show, The Fallen State, and did an interview there. Really great interview. I'm very proud of it. And most of the comments were like, I would say 60 to 65% of the comments were about what you would expect, but a good higher than average percentage were like this. Let me read some of these. Even though I don't agree with this kid, he is one of the best interviewees I've seen here, answering straight questions with pretty straight answers. He was a great guest that took all the questions with stride. At first I was going to hit skip because of the title screen, but I said, let me hear Jesse roast him. And he actually hung in there and had great articulate answers to the questions. Didn't come across with the I'm so offended mentality as most Zoomers do nowadays. He handled himself well compared to some folks that go on the show. He actually seemed like a well-meaning guy, but he has a lot to work on, like a lot of us, and hopefully he overcomes everything. Now, of course, there were other comments like he's as logical as a woman, but these are like the first steps you would ever need to take to move somebody off of a political position.
Element of that. But yeah, I guess my point is, if you know that there are right wingers, even if it's in you know, law of large numbers, you have thousands of people that watch your stream. So even if it's like a small percentage of your audience, that's still going to mean there's like maybe hundreds of people, you know, that are fascist or racist watching. That's possible. I don't want to debate about the numbers or whatever, but I guess, okay, so I'm going to move on to the next point of my platform here, and then I'll let you just totally respond to my point, because I'm almost done making my point. Mm-hmm. So if you have, if it's true that there are any right-wingers watching you, that's one thing. And then another way to know, I guess a metric of whether you have right-wingers or not, is how people engage after you've done something, right? So like if I make a video, I'm going to try to gauge the outcomes. I'm going to try to watch what people are saying on social media about it. I'm going to go to Reddit and check that out. I'm going to check the comments on my channel or whatever. And so what I've noticed, and a lot of people have noticed, is a pattern where whenever you talk about somebody who is, shall we say, marginalized, you know, black or trans or person of color or what have you, that there's a tendency for those people to receive a lot of kind of like after effect collateral damage in terms of harassment, threats, and other kinds of, like, you know, disturbing attacks like that. Now, I've seen it happen with Luna because I'm married to her. We spend all of our time together. I monitor, I help her administrate her comments and that sort of thing. And I also know other people who have shown me similar results, you know. So I guess my first question is, are you aware of that, or would you deny that that's something that happens?
I think I'd mostly deny it. You know, there's a whole narrative about my community harassing people, but in spite of nearly 3 years of trying to track down the people actually doing this, I've yet to be provided a single piece of evidence of it actually happening. Usually the initial claim is some very severe, you know, Vaush community, you know, harassing, like really bad stuff, right? But then I get some screenshots, and it's usually people just being kind of mean, which I'm fine with. I don't have a problem with people being mean to people I don't like. I guess it's possible that this happens. It's just not something that I've been provided substantive evidence of. If it can be provided, I'll ban those people from my community. But yeah, outside of that, I don't think it's I just
Sorry, I
don't think
thought
it's
you
that
were
much of an
finished.
issue.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, I guess I'm not going to press it too much farther. I will say that like this is the kind of thing that it's kind of hard to
Substantiate.
litigate and substantiate, right? Because like, so for instance, I can just tell you from my personal experience that, you know, since I literally look at Luna's comments every single day on her YouTube channel, I kind of get an idea. Like she does get racist comments every day, you know, and you know that that's probably true. Just because any person of color, black person on the internet that's putting themselves out there and talking about politics is going to receive that kind of thing. So she does get those kinds of comments every day. But every time you've done a video where you talked about her, suddenly there's like a big uptick in the number of those kinds of racists and just terrible kinds of disturbing comments. And the only other time I've ever seen that happen, it's only happened twice before, and once was after we had the discussion with Destiny, and once was after the armchair historian and her had a little bit of a back and forth. And it's never ever happened again. Lots of other people have criticized Luna, but those are the only 3 examples. And so something tells me it's just here. I guess let me put it this way: my instinct is there's something about.
So I remember when everything happened, with the whole cat stuff. Cat did get like some, a few anti-Semitic, but also like some racist shit. Right now, it was a small number, I will say, in the grand scheme of shit. And I also got like obviously some like queerphobic shit or whatever. It was a small number in the greater scheme of things. And I also do feel that it also depends on the streamer though. That if I was ever so bothered by something, right, I probably could have sent the DMs to Destiny. And he probably, if the person was like an established member and wasn't just some like rando account that somebody made off of something else and you had no clue who it was, probably would ban those people. I guess the question is like, how much control do you expect a content creator to have over their community when it comes to stuff like this? Because there's no way Vaush can account for all 386,000 subs, or Destiny can account for all 401,000 subs. I don't think anybody would realistically think they could account for every single one. I guess the real thing is, how would they respond to seeing members of the community do that? And if they ban them and like kick them out of the community, I feel like there's not really much more you can do besides actively say to your audience, don't do this, which I do think Vaush and Destiny have both done on multiple occasions.
Going on there, and
but of course doing that doesn't necessarily stop anybody. I remember back in the day, a lot of skeptic YouTubers, or like criticizing a feminist, be like, well, then I think it's also a little different with the skeptic YouTubers, because it would start with a disclaimer like, please don't go and harass and bully the person we're about to talk about, and then it would open up with Bearing being like, this dumb fucking bitch, and you'd be like, well, you can't tell people not to do it and then engage in like, I mean, I don't know what you expect if you're gonna be acting like that. Exactly what do you expect to happen, you know?
Think that matters. I would encourage you to take it seriously and investigate it more on your own and see if you can find out more, and just keep that in the back of your mind, I guess, as you move forward when you talk about people who are vulnerable. Now, Luna and I are in our 30s and we have each other and we're stable, and the reason I'm not trying to preach at you, but I know that you're aware that there are people out there who are more vulnerable. There are people who are younger. There are people who have mental instability and might be inclined towards self-harm and that sort of thing. So I guess I'm just saying, from one big content creator to the other, it's something that I do, is try to be careful about how I cultivate my audience. I try to identify the strengths and strengthen those.
I will say that I've never, ever, even though I'm sure Noncompete disagrees with me like basically everything when it comes to like how we should engage maybe in society, like, as far as I know, I've never seen him act toxically towards me or towards anyone else, unless he has, and someone can correct me.
And I try to identify weaknesses and negate those as much as possible over time. So I'm not trying to preach at you, but that's something I wanted to make you aware of, that's something that I've seen happening personally with Luna's audience. So
I saw that tweet from Luna where she screenshotted some groypers quote tweeting her and said that they were sort of insinuated that was a product of her mentioning or talking with me. I mean, I'm a large content creator. There are people who hate watch me. I also have. Oh wait, hold on. I'm getting some feedback from your end when I talk. Do you know what that might be?
Did it just start, or has it been
No,
going on?
it's been happening. It's like a sort of static and like a gain pitch kind of.
Did that fix it at all?
Let me see. Talk. Yeah. Okay. Wait. I think that did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about
I saw those screenshots. Oh, people are saying my voice is too loud in your stream. I don't know if that's
I
the
probably
case.
just fixed both problems simultaneously. I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, obviously, as a product of my size, beefing with me is going to cause a lot of engagement, and there might be negative consequences to that for like marginalized people because I'm broadly known on the right.
He's being super toxic to Vaush right now, Lamal. They're literally are calling him a Nazi because he doesn't understand how philosophy works. And I'm looking right now. He hasn't called him a Nazi yet. Well, okay. I don't know how this conversation is going to go, but that seems out of character for non-compete.
Right. I don't know if there's a way to directly attribute that to me. I know they're not my audience. I don't think I have a substantial Groiper audience at my beck and call. I just don't know if there's anything I can really do about that. Because at that point, it's not even about my community. It's just about the size of my channel and exposure given to people that I disagree with. And we're working off tenuous connections as well. I mean, it could very well be that even if I was perfectly responsible with all my engagement, merely the act of being signal boosted to the level that one is when they engage with me would then increase the likelihood of that kind of negative attention. There's just, it feels like the link here is tenuous enough that I don't have a direct control over it, or really even an indirect control. The only solution would be, I think, to just not ever engage with, positively or negatively, any other figures who are marginalized, which probably wouldn't be good. That doesn't seem like a sustainable solution, I think.
I guess the only thing I could say would be like, maybe all creators in the space should more when engaging with people they disagree with, even though there's going to be some amount that happens no matter what. You should always like put a disclaimer like, hey, just because I disagree with this person, don't go harass them. Da 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 da. But like we're all like when pressed, all of us will say that. I guess maybe we should just be more pertinent about saying it and saying if you do that, you'll be banned from the community if we catch you. Maybe like making the consequences more self-evident from the get-go, not just saying don't do it as kind of like a suggestion, but more don't do it as a community rule. But I mean, besides that, I don't know much more you can actually do.
Okay, there are a few things there. I guess I'll push back a little bit against. So the first thing would be, every time there are some things you can do. Every time I talk about somebody who I disagree with, who could be receiving that kind of, hate. Like, I'm very careful to tell my audience, like, do not harass this person, blah, blah, blah. That will help with your actual audience, your community, the people that you actually like, enjoy. But then also I don't know. I think you could be more selective about some of the things that you say about certain people, because there have been instances like for instance, when you talked about Luna, I don't think that calling her a useless stepchild of Vietnam, I think that might fan the flames of like racial problems. I'm not saying that you were intentionally being racist. That's not the point there. But I think that having that kind of super vitriolic statement could perhaps fan the flames. I think maybe when talking about people in marginalized positions, you could perhaps just stick to the facts and to the ideas more, instead of bringing up the personal vitriolic remarks like that, calling them stupid, using ableist slurs and that sort of thing. I think that might be one way you could kind of control some of that. Do you like completely disown and denounce the people who have made racial comments about Luna since you made your stream about her?
Oh, anyone who makes racist comments towards Luna is either not a part of my community, or if they are, should be removed from it. I'm not a racist, and I don't tolerate racism on any of my platforms.
I'm muted. The only thing I think you could suggest that would be more than what Vaush and the rest of the communities in the space already do is at the start of any video where you're criticizing someone, you always have a disclaimer: don't harass. If you do, you're banned. Which is a lot like what old skeptic YouTubers used to do. But then also like make it a rule, like if we find out you have been, you'll be banned from the. like making that disclaimer at the start of every video, maybe. Like maybe that's something. Like I'm trying to think what more could possibly be done here.
If it really is like hate followers who are watching or simply responding to an increase in visibility, though, nothing I say will change anything. I mean, I could have a positive interaction. In fact, I know this because I have had positive engagements with people, marginalized people, either race, gender, sexuality, who then got harassment after talking with me, not just from the rest of the left for deigning to talk with me, of course, but just as a product of being made visible, you know? So if that is the group responsible predominantly for the real vitriol, I don't think there's anything I could do other than be silent. In terms of like harassment from my community, like the tone that I set, I'm okay with it. I'm generally quite mean to conservatives or people that I don't like. I think that's okay. I think that the vitriol is sort of an essential component.
Okay, you don't think that when you said that Luna's a useless stepchild of Vietnam, that could, even if you didn't intend for it to have racial undertones, right? Because intention here doesn't matter. I think you'd agree with me. It's the outcomes that matter. You don't think that that's the kind of thing that can stoke racially charged responses from people or
Sure,
encourage.
you can get that from criticizing China too, right? Like I hate China, but if you talk about that long enough, folks who are actually racist are going to catch on.
You
There's
can
only
talk
so
about
much
how
you
you
can do
hate
about
China
that.
without calling somebody a useless stepchild of China, for instance. You know,
Well,
I mean, like
if
that's
they
a
were
weird.
if they were a
say about something.
Chinese
What does that even
nationalist,
mean? A useless stepchild of Vietnam? I don't really understand what you were trying to say there.
oh, I don't know.
I will say it does sound like, I don't know if I can say it's racist, but it did make me cringe when he said it. I don't know how much. I don't really think of that really means anything, but I will say that, I guess.
I threw out probably like 100 or 200 insults. I don't even remember the one you're saying right now. I'm sure in
The fact
context
that
it was
you don't
very
remember
funny.
what you said tells me you weren't being too careful when you talked about her as an individual. Like
Well,
maybe you forgot a little bit.
I can't
what I'm-
remember every insult I deliver over a whole stream. I mean, that's hours every day I'd have to log. I don't have that much storage space in my head.
I don't know. I think you could be careful. I think you could be more careful about how you talk about
Well,
other people. But okay.
What you've said
Brett,
there.
I think this is going nowhere. So,
Well, I just
do you
want to
have
say
anything else you want to say about
what
this?
you've said there, that doesn't cross my threshold for irresponsible treatment. I mean, obviously, and I'm not, this isn't an effort to poison the well. Obviously, you have a closer relationship with Luna.
I will say, if somebody came to me and said, let's say I said that insult and someone came to me and said, "Hey, Dylan, I feel like it could be fanning the flames of some racial shit," I probably would be like, okay, then I will say stepchild of the government of said country. Like maybe you could like change it up a bit, but I don't think it's like necessarily racist. Could it fan the flames of racism? Yeah, but I think it's the same way you would fan the flames of racism if I'm like insulting the Chinese government and then there's somebody who's racist. It doesn't like China because they're racist or something, and then they get involved. It's definitely borderline. Yeah, it's pretty weird. I would say it's weird, champ, but I don't think it's racist. I'm trying to figure out like the line I'm putting in my head because it makes me feel uncomfortable, but I can't exactly like put down why I feel uncomfortable. I guess it's like the same. It's the same thing when I like hear somebody be like, oh my god, I really don't know. I don't know. I'll just have to listen more.
Than I do. That's kind of an
I
understatement.
do recognize that she's a person. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
part of being,
right. Well, we're gonna have different perspectives on an acceptable level of vitriol towards people that you don't like. I guess the thing that always weirds me out a little bit is I'm very mean to conservatives on my channel. Nobody seems to mind that much. But then when there are people on the left who have ideas that I think are just as pernicious, all of a sudden, people, they get very up in arms about it. I don't understand the double standard personally. I think that
I can't speak to that because I don't have enough insight into or optics into that. So,
what do you think it's okay if I was?
I feel like there's certain boundaries that I insult people. I'm gonna be honest, right? Is it a good thing to do? I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it that much, but there are certain lines I don't cross. I do my best. I'm not always perfect, of course. to not go after people's family unless it's directly implicated in said incident. For example, I'm not gonna go after like Tucker Carlson's kids or Donald Trump's or Barron Trump. I will go after like his other kids because they're actively involved in politics, but I'm not gonna go after Barron Trump. I'm going after somebody's race, sexuality, immutable characteristics is usually something, and I even banned that in my show. Is it good generally to insult people? Probably not, but I would also say it's something that everyone in the space does. I guess the question is on whether that insult in particular crossed the line or not, and I would say it rode the line. You know what I mean? It didn't necessarily cross, but again, I don't know if I'm even the person who could determine such a thing. Barron is fair game. He is not fair game. He hasn't done anything. He's just a child.
I'm just asking because I just want to know if it's a broad opposition or if there's kind of like a specific favoritism here. If I was doing a video on like, I don't know, Ben Shapiro, and I was just throwing them out there, you know, all the
I believe he doesn't want to take it back because he doesn't see it as crossing his threshold. Therefore, he predicts future insults will match the level of the one he's complaining about. Yeah, I think in my mind I could see, like, for example, let's say I said that what's a commentator? Let's say I said partisan girl is what was the insult? It was like the bastardized stepchild of da-da-da, right? I guess for me, the correction that I would want Vaush to make here would be government, not like Vietnam. Because if I said of partisan girl, who is somebody who just straight up is like Black Lives Matter is like communist plot to da-da-da, and supports the most like Bashar al-Assad and brutal like militias throughout Syria that have committed tons of war crimes. This is a terrible person. Somebody went on David Duke's podcast. But if I said that they're the bastardized child of Syria or something like that, I would feel uncomfortable saying that. Now, if I said they're the bastardized child of the Syrian government, I feel like that word government after it made me feels a lot more comfy. And I guess like that would be like the one caveat I would have put on like Vaush's insult here, not even knowing his conflict with Luna Oi.
insults, nothing anti-Semitic or whatever, but, you know, just insults. Do you think there's an issue with that vitriol, or do you think that's a fine thing to do?
No, we're allergic to nuance. Stop. I guess for me is like okay, let's say that we had a Chinese content creator in the space and they said something that was favorable towards the Chinese government, and then you heard Tucker Carlson say that they're the bastardized child of China. Be like, ooh, right? You know, doesn't feel as comfy, does it? Doesn't feel that comfy, right? So I guess I'm just holding that standard. I want to make sure that like this is something that I would feel the same about if I heard it from somebody I did not personally know or have personally talked to, like Vaush.
By things like race and or being trans or whatever, then of course there's a problem. Even
Do
if
I think it was racist though? No, I just think it could have been worded better.
like for instance, like you know, like if there's if you're debating a conservative who was gay, and then you made some kind of comment that could be construed as referencing their sexuality. I'm not saying you did that. I'm speaking hypothetically. And then that person got harassed for being gay, even if they're conservative, I certainly wouldn't say that that's acceptable. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I'm saying I'm just saying the
Not to defend Carlson, but I would assume the government part. I guess the problem is I think there would be people out there that wouldn't assume the government part. You know what I mean? And even if you did, I think there would be a fair amount of people who wouldn't. And I don't think that's the community Vaush has fostered. But it can, if there are hate watchers in the community, then they can hear that comment and take something different from it. Know what I mean? Right now we're being like really like, we're being kind of nitpicky, yeah? But I just want to make sure that I'm staying consistent in what I would apply the standard if it was somewhere else. I remember when Anna Kasparian called Aaron Mate a Syrian apologist. See, that sounds weird. A Syrian apologist. It sounds weird. Like, I feel like a Syrian government apologist I guess for me, like when someone says a country and says their government, a lot of people equivocate the two in their mind. And I guess I'm less quick to equivocate the two. Because if somebody says, I hate America, you're like, ooh, that's going to get a very negative reaction from most Americans. But if you say, I hate the American government, there's a lot of Americans who might say, hell yeah, brother. You know what I mean? There's like a difference there because people identify so closely with the country they're born and raised in.
Hypothetical a person who did that would have to take responsibility for the role that they played in that. And
oh,
I
hold
think
on.
that when you're
What?
throwing out insults, you need to be thinking about the potential ripple effects that the words you use can have when you're talking to thousands of people.
Well, I think the ripple effect is, I suppose I dislike her, and I'm okay with people in my audience disliking her, but if the racial comments, like the racism, is really coming from like the Groyper hate followers, I just don't think there's a relationship between the language that I use, you know, this language at least, which is, I don't think, racialized.
I guess I can't prove if it was or wasn't. It's all speculation, and I don't know how much I want to speculate on it. And I highly doubt the Groypers in the audience, by hearing that word, would have then treated her any differently. Like, it's not like Vaush gave them the okay to then go over there and be racist. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Because I could see someone like Tucker Carlson fanning those flames and that upticking the amount of activity. I guess it's just because I view those two audiences as starkly different, and the amount of commentary that would be being talked about generally on said issue would be vastly different. Like, Tucker Carlson's commentary on China is probably vastly different than Vaush's. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard. This is actually, I'm actually thinking a lot more about the nuance of this than I thought I would.
And the outcomes. Hold on, somebody linked the stepchild thing. I just want to hear it. It's 6 seconds. 1 second. Yeah, the modern Vietnamese government has produced little fucking off stepchild bastard children like Luna Oi here. Yeah, the
Okay, so actually he did say government. Oh. Well then, the whole last, well, you know what? It wasn't all for now. At least we had an interesting conversation, okay? At least we had an interesting conversation.
modern Vietnamese government has
Hold on, let me pause this convo to insult your wife. That is pretty weird, man. Let me, wait. Let me just listen back to the time I insulted your wife. Yeah. Bastardized stepchild is a pretty harsh insult. I don't know if it, I don't think that, it is a pretty severe insult. It does hit hard. But I don't think it has any like inappropriate connotation outside of, ooh, that hurts. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's a comment on
But who cares about racism when it comes to two cuckolds for the Vietnamese state? I disagree with a lot of people. You know, I disagree with JLP. I disagree with Ben Carson. I disagree with, what was that one black sheriff guy? He was the dude Trump was a huge Trump supporter. He had the big ass cowboy hat on all the time. He was known for being a tough on crime sheriff. I forgot his name, but yeah, Arpaio. Wait, is it Arpaio? I think Arpaio is a different guy. It wasn't Blade. Is it Arpaio? I'm thinking of the whatever. It doesn't really matter. So Ben Carson or any of these people I'm talking about, right? I disagree with them, but I would never ever attack them or be racist towards them based upon their race, because nobody deserves, in my opinion, a racist attacks on them. Clark, his name was David Clark. You're right. Nobody deserves to be racially abused, number one, and number two, you're still normalizing racism. So even if it's someone you disagree with, you should not be doing that for both of those reasons. You can find a million other insults you can throw at somebody.
Vietnamese education producing like nationalist defenders. Yeah. So that would be like the stepchild comment.
What is the stepchild connection there?
Well, like
you know that she's 5 years older than you. I mean, I don't understand why you keep calling her a child, and it seems kind of like overly demeaning. I don't know what basis you have for that.
I'm okay with being demeaning. with the stepchild
Okay.
thing, when I think of like, it was like the redheaded stepchild kind of thing, like the idea that like like a bunch of like.
I got. Oh fuck, man. I would say the child thing is super weak. I gotta be honest, because stepchild, because I was the stepchild for my stepfather, and I'm still his stepchild. Well, now I'm his ex stepchild, right? But that isn't like a saying it's youth. Like at this point, it would still be. People don't refer to it in that way. I don't think people were. Yeah, no, but I'm trying to like. I'm okay with being demeaning. Man, I'm really trying to like, because this stuff is making me uncomfortable, you know? But I'm trying to figure out why it's making me uncomfortable. Why is it making I'm trying to figure it out desperately right now. I'm sorry that the screen's black, it's loading, my computer's garbage. Why am I uncomfortable? Because you're not an asshole? You're more civil? That would probably be it. I'm more civil, and I feel like demeaning somebody in front of their husband and saying you're fine with demeaning their wife in front of their husband or partner is something that I don't think I would be willing to do unless it was pretty extreme circumstances. And maybe I don't know the circumstances around this or like what Luna Oi has said. But I mean, like, I'm just imagining like somebody doing that to me about Kat right in front of me, right? And I remember somebody trying to do that once, and after stream, I talked to them. I was like, dude, don't do that in front of me again. Because they said something like, I thought was over the line. And like, yeah, no, that would make me feel terrible. So I guess that's where it's sprouting from. But I think the racial connotation and the child I think those are both weak.
Like sort of children running around, you know, it's like 20 of them and you can remember the names of 16 or so.
Like an hour spent on this point. Vaush didn't pull back his eye, put an accent, and ask for... Okay, stop, okay? Look, I don't think it's racist. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm okay with that level of meeting somebody. And willing to continue to endorse it while in front of their significant other. I guess, like, if he said it was different not in front of their significant other, then, like, then I guess it would be hypocritical because you're in favor of it only when not in front of their loved one. I guess there's, like, a time and place for a joke, you know? But it's them who brought up the joke in question, right? Ah. Yeah, so Vaush has to actually stay here unless he... When it comes to, like... If he was to move off of it, he would have to move off the point. He can't move off of it just while talking to this guy.
You know, I think it's a salient critique of the way governments will sort of indoctrinate their constituents.
Could you not have made that point? You know, knowing what you know and knowing and being conscious of the way that certain people that watch your show, could you just not have made that point with a little bit less personal vitriol? I guess I just don't understand the. I don't.
But
understand.
I'm okay
like,
with
I
the
talk to people
vitriol
all the time that I don't like, but I don't make weird comments about them like that.
I'm okay with the vitriol. Also, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Luna's been quite vitriolic to me for a while. Not
Luna
to say it's
talk
not
about you for months on end until you decide to do another stream about her. That's something I can tell you for sure.
Oh, sure. Not to say it's not
she doesn't just
mutual.
go around talking about you all the time. It's always in self-defense. I mean, I have to say that I've been very keyed in on that.
I think there was at least one time she started something, but it doesn't matter. This isn't like a who started it type thing. I'm just saying that I think the vitriol certainly is mutual. I don't see an issue with being vitriolic. It's fine. If anything, you know, I'm working on maybe trying to be a little more vitriolic. I feel like the left on.
I feel like it would be better to be less vitriolic. Whatever.
Line gives way too much of a pass to certain types of ideas. Some types of nationalism.
Why do you think that is beneficial? I mean, what do you think what end does that serve? I don't get it. I don't understand how calling somebody a useless stepchild of Vietnam serves
Vaush is slowly transforming into Twitter destiny.
any purpose.
Well, it was part of a broader like bit on the nationalism thing, but anti-nationalism is a strong component of leftist
like if you said Luna's a rabid nationalist or something, then like that would have a connection to what you're saying. I don't understand it. I don't see this. I don't feel like this conversation is going anywhere. I don't think that you're. I don't think you get what I'm saying. So
No, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that I was too mean. I just don't mind being mean.
It's not a matter of me, and I'm using the personal situation of Luna because I'm familiar with that. But there have been a number of people have come forward and said that after you talked about them on stream, they got a lot of hate. And I'm just saying that if that were me and that were my audience and that were my platform, and somebody was saying that, I would take it very seriously and I would work very hard to do everything I could to decrease that as much as possible. No, you're saying that you want to go forward and be more vitriolic towards.
Well, the thing is,
we're talking about people of color, transphobic people, trans people, gay people, or whatever. You're saying you want to be more vitriolic to people who you disagree with, who are marginalized, not less vitriolic.
The main thing is that I do take it seriously, and having taken it seriously, I've only found evidence to take it less seriously. Because this has happened before, this basic pattern, and I always have it investigated. I have mods, I have a team.
It is a pattern of behavior.
I have a crack team, and this always gets looked into. I can never find evidence of real harassment. Either it's just people being mean to them, which again, I'm totally okay with. And I don't think that's...
What do you consider violent? I mean, like, I don't know. What you don't think that if somebody's if a bunch of people are coming forward and it seems like a pattern of behavior, because you said it's a pattern of behavior and you're having to investigate it all the time. I mean, I don't have this problem. I don't have to go out launching investigations with like a crack mod NSA team to go do like investigations, because I'm not constantly hearing from people that when I talk about them on stream that they're getting a bunch of harassment over race and gender and sexuality and that kind of thing. But that's what I'm hearing people say about your audience. So what's the? I don't know what the difference is between my.
Wait, hold on. Somebody just linked a tweet where Luna is essentially calling me a pedophile. I think I'm okay with the mean. I usually try to proportion it to my dislike for people. I feel like
I know
Luna.
the tweet you're talking about. Do you want to read the tweet and tell me exactly what it says?
Vaush gets kicked off of platforms for saying cracker, but not for saying pedophilia can be good for children. Sick fucking world.
Which is an exact quote that you said.
No, it's not.
You play the video that it's linked to. Tell me that it's not.
The video cuts me off mid-sentence. It literally cuts me off in between.
You did say that though. She referenced something you actually said.
It is possible.
Hold on.
You could defend yourself and say that was taken out of context or whatever, but she didn't call you a pedophile, and she was referencing something you actually said, which is a different situation than being vitriolic towards people for absolutely no reason.
So do you think that signal boosting misinformation with the intent of sort of painting a person as a pedophile isn't like, it's interesting that you would take issue with saying a person's a stepchild of the country that they're from, but the idea of like signal boosting
bastardized stepchild, to be fair,
disingenuous far right pedo jacketing that was literally cut off mid-sentence isn't itself bad faith or disingenuous. Like, that's really weird to me. I don't understand. Is it like a perceived vulnerability thing because my community
there is a power differential, for one thing. That is true. But also, that's not the only thing. The other thing is, she wasn't just talking about you. She was talking about the way platforms work. I think that you would agree.
No. Okay, let's say that somebody took, okay. Now, I would need to go back and see and I know I would have to go back and see the context of that clip specifically, right? But let me give an example, right? So I've said, earlier this stream, I said the words, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Now, out of context, that sounds fucking terrible. But I said that while quoting George Wallace as an example of the history of the struggle against the civil rights movement, and how saying that the whites like fought and ended segregation and slavery is kind of lacking some context, that a lot of whites also fought and defended slavery and segregation, and it also does not include like black people's involvement in their struggle for liberation and like blah blah blah, right? But it is technically true that I said those words, and like, but it would be disingenuous to blast that, because without that provided context, it makes it look like I'm endorsing segregation.
That getting kicked off for saying cracker was ridiculous, right? Do you agree with that?
I would agree that calling me a pedophile is being vitriolic. I don't think there's any working around that.
She didn't call you a pedophile. She didn't call you a pedophile.
Non-compete. Come on.
Did it? She said that what she said that she thinks that what you said in that clip is worse than saying cracker.
Okay, here's the full context. Okay, we'll listen to it. You want to know how I know nobody goes and looks at the full context? Because this stream only has 6,000 views. But I've seen those clips have not millions, but like tens of thousands. Felix, Night Owl, thanks for the tier 1.
A rule, it is substantially more likely that enabling them would cause harm in society.
Yeah, let me listen to the...
On the child as well. For an adult and a child to have a sexual relationship, and for it to have positive outcomes. On the child as well. That is possible. However, categorically, we discourage those relationships because as a rule, it is substantially more likely that enabling them would cause harm in society. That's the difference between act and rule utilitarianism. An act utilitarian would say...
Dude, I understand what he's trying to say here, but Vaush needs to stop using pedophilia as like a moral like explainer. Like anytime it wants to explain some philosophic whatever the hell.
Say, oh, this is an instance where it was good for the adult and the minor to have sex, that would make it a good action. But the rule utilitarian, which is what I am, would say, even though that individual outcome was good, the act was still bad because in general, in a broader application, for adults and children to have sex with one another leads...
This is very important context. Okay, we figured it. We got it out. He even said he doesn't even agree with that utilitarian. He doesn't even agree with that act utilitarian. Whatever the hell. Okay? Okay, got it. We got the context, which was pretty important context. And Bad Empanada was spreading it around without the context, specifically because he wants to build a narrative, and he lies about people constantly. He did the same thing to me. He does it to like every creator into space he doesn't like.
I mean, if you cut together a bunch of words spliced from different streams and arranged them in a way to implicate me, and then looked at that and said, huh, look at that, that's interesting. That wouldn't technically be calling me.
I don't know what to say. I can just tell you that to me, there's a difference between quoting what somebody actually said in a specific context when you're commenting on a platform versus calling somebody
actually quoting me,
stepchild of Vietnam.
It's not quoting me.
Which is really just an insult based on the fact that she's Vietnamese. That's the only tangible piece of evidence about her identity that you addressed, or even you didn't address her positions. You addressed like you didn't call her a nationalist. You called her a stepchild of Vietnam.
No, it was the government. It said government. That's a key word there, if I'm going to be completely honest. A lot of people equivocate nations and governments. I don't do the same because that's not how I think most people view it. But he specifically said government, which, like, you can try to continue to ride that, but he said it. Like, for the first, like, 10, 15 minutes, I was like, actually, I think I might have a problem with Vaush here. And then I listened to the clip. I was like, oh, well, that's a key word that was missing.
A section where I was hold on. This would be a lot easier for you if you didn't form your opinions based exclusively off the Twitter clips. In the whole video, where you can find the section. No, I'm talking about the stepchild thing. I have an opinion on whether or not I'm a pedophile, and it's that the people who go out of their way to call me one because they can't address my real arguments are bottom-feeding scum. And I really like the idea that you would complain. Hold on. The idea that people would complain about vitriol. I mean, not even about like the arguments used, right? But like in terms of vitriol. And what? Because I made a joke about her being a nationalist? Like, is stepchild like a slur now? This concern totally me. I don't
Vietnam
get it.
Did mention her nationality, which is I don't have her ethnicity.
I think she's a Vietnamese nationalist. Yes, stepchild of Vietnamese propagandizing education.
He said government because Noncompete is leaving out a key word here, which is government. Because for the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, you might have an argument. Actually, I think I might agree. And I was like, man, this makes me feel really uncomfortable. Then I hear government, and I still felt uncomfortable because just the word bastard. I don't know. Maybe it hits harder on me because my mom and dad weren't married when I was born, and I'm a bastard child. Maybe that's why it hits harder. I don't know. But the word government was clearly used, so it's yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
Sure, yeah. It's fine. I don't I don't even think that's particularly vitriolic. I'm pretty sure I said worse stuff.
Okay. All right, we're really just going around in circles now. So I don't know. I have nothing else to say about this. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I suppose not.
Okay. Do you want to talk about anything? I have a few other questions.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, like you guys said, this was get really bad. Like that did get a little heated. Seems fine to me.
Well, yeah, there were 3 topics that you mentioned. Hold on, I didn't have the email up. Get that. Well, you said the first one was on targeting marginalized people. And the second one was a perceived lack of understanding.
Hey, James Knight, thank you so much for the tier 1. Just got here. What's the vibe on this so far? Yikers.
Of Luna's video and of dialectical materialism. And then the third one was the dishonest rhetorical tricks I use in my discussions. And I'm happy to talk about either or both if you'd like.
Okay. So I think that in your video, so specifically just focusing on the stream you had about Luna. Now, because you said that people that don't address your opinions, blah, blah, your actual positions. I feel like you spent 2 hours. You call people who don't address your actual positions bottom feeding scum. You spent
and call
2
me
hours.
pedophiles.
To be clear, I think there's a difference. If someone didn't address my opinion based on an argument about economics, that's one thing. If someone didn't address my opinions and then called me a pedo at the end of it, I feel there's a little bit of a difference there, or at least insinuated, or left valuable context out that made it look like I was that.
That's the part that bothers me the most.
Categorically, Luna did not call you a pedophile. She quoted something that you said,
Wasn't
and
a quote.
I do happen to agree. I don't think there's any situation where an adult can have a sexual relationship with a child, and it has a positive outcome. So
if you had actually seen the full bit that was clipped from, then you would agree. You saw the full bit, not just the Twitter bit, but the full thing in which I was constructing a rule
foundation was that there can be some situations where an adult and a child can have a positive outcomes. You didn't say anyway. It's totally immaterial.
It's important. So in a consequentialist sense, you can easily construct a situation where essentially anything is fine. I'll ask you, just follow through with me 30 seconds.
No,
then we'll be done.
I'm not an idealist. I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals that don't have any bearing on material reality.
But
wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. First of all, we're not talking
hypothetical situations where adults can molest children and it has a positive outcome.
You're the one talking. Wait, hold on. First
to be fair, I wouldn't want to talk about that either. Okay, I wouldn't want to. But also, to be fair, Luna did retweet that and blast that out there to thousands of people.
Marx was a philosopher. It's not idealism.
This is the same reason why I don't have Mr. Girl on my stream. I don't want anything to do with it.
Wait, no, hold on. Wait, you can't move away from this. Okay, hold on. I'm not letting you paint me like this and then run the fuck away. Wait, hold on. Wait, you have to stop talking for 1 second, okay? Hold on. So imagine, all right? Imagine aliens come down to Earth, and they say,
"This is absolutely ridiculous, Vaush."
You've lasted 6 seconds so far. Okay.
Imagine aliens. This is as hypothetical idealism as you can get. You're literally just like
you're like a honeymoon virgin. You gotta last longer than 6 seconds. Just give me a second, okay? Did I not let you talk for a long time when you were establishing your premises? Come on.
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals with you.
You don't have to. You don't have to talk. You just have to listen. You just have to listen, okay? Now, you can imagine a situation in which aliens come down to Earth and they say, we're going to blow up the whole planet unless you kill this innocent kid. Now, in a consequentialist sense, killing that innocent kid... Right, I know, right? So follow through. So in a consequentialist... I know, an inability to grasp philosophy is one of my biggest issues with Luna. It makes sense that it would apply to both of you. This philosophy and idealism aren't the same thing. Those don't mean the same thing.
The problem is you could actually find There's other scenarios where you can have this the same exact thing. You can talk about like combat scenarios on a battlefield where, let's say you're fighting Nazi Germany and there's like a very vital like Nazi division that's about to go out there and kill like a bunch of civilians, and you need to blow them up, but they're next to an orphanage. But if you don't kill them, then double the amount of orphans get killed. Like you could like build scenarios that aren't like that even far out there. Vaush is just doing it for like effect.
You can
No,
Wikipedia them.
you're basing you're constructing hypothetical situations that have no bearing.
Hypotheticals
in
aren't. Wait, do you think an idealism is when you construct a hypothetical? Do you think those mean the same thing? You're going to lecture me on dialectical
There's
materialism.
no
And you're
point
struggling
in
on
having this discussion. Is my point.
Can you answer that question? Do you think idealism means when you construct a hypothetical? Have you read
If you
Capital?
construct a
It's full of
hypothetical that
hypotheticals.
has nothing to do with reality, and you think that that gets you closer to the truth, that is idealism, because you are making the ideal conscious processes of thought your basis for truth.
Idealism is
And
not
I'm
when
a
you.
materialist, and my basis
I
for
see.
finding truth.
I see the
is
issue.
material
You
world
think
we live in.
idealism is when you think, which is why you don't. Listen, if you
No.
read
Oh,
Das
oh.
Kapital,
No,
okay,
but-
you'll actually find hypotheticals. They're actually kind of
Oh, boy.
ubiquitous. Look. Anyway, in
They're
that
grounded
situation.
in reality, though. They're grounded in actual things that happen.
So just let's
Until
finish
time
the point. We can
persists
move on if you let me talk for 10 seconds, okay? So in that situation, you could argue consequentially that the outcomes would be good to murder that innocent child because the earth doesn't get blown up. Then, because the Twitter bit cuts me off literally mid-sentence, you follow on from that point to talk about how a rule utilitarian could have a categorical opposition to the murder of children in spite of that. The whole argument was one against the predation of children, but far-right people like to clip me out of context because it's easier than debunking me. That's it. That was it.
Okay. All right. That is idealism, though.
That's not what
Okay.
idealism means.
It is when you think that you can find any truth that brings you like when if you use a hypothetical that's grounded in reality, then that's
Not.
Then
This
that
isn't
can
what
be
idealism means. This isn't. It's not. You don't know what that term means.
well, what do you think idealism means?
So
Noncompete sounds like a very friendly guy who really likes his wife. Okay?
do you mean idealism like in
Which is an admirable trait.
relationship to materialism in the dialectical sense, like dialectical idealism versus dialectical materialism? Because the Hegelian concept has
that would-
nothing to do with the construction of hypotheticals.
No, it doesn't. But it does. But no, it does. It does. So yes, it does, because idealism is the position that the basis for finding truth, and this actually does move towards what I wanted to talk to you about. So I'm fine with talking about this now, because I do think you misunderstand the difference between materialism and idealism, and I think you don't understand the relationship between Hegel and Marx and Engels, and I don't think that you understand the difference between historical materialism and dialectical materialism. So these are all things I did want to ask you about. So Hegel's whole dialectic, and the problem that Marx and Engels had with Hegel, was that he sought truth on the basis of the ideal and consciousness. Okay? Marx and Engels broke with that, and they thought that the material world in objective sense data, empirical sense data, is the primary basis for truth. But they were not empiricists. They were not positivists, meaning they didn't think you could only find truth in sense data, in empirical data. Okay? Do you agree with all of those things I just said, or do you know those things?
No, I don't think that's correct. I think that's simplified in some respects and incorrect in others.
All right. Well, just tell me what you think idealism is, Vaush.
The dialectical disagreement. So first of all, idealism is a philosophical tradition dating back millennia. What you refer to as ideal, like, I don't know, there are like 20 different kinds of idealism depending on where you're pulling from. The juxtaposition usually posed against what Marx wrote was Hegelian dialectical idealism, which was the idea that social advancements, that ideas that human civilization was moved.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm just listening to this. I'm not a theory yet. I'll just let them hash this out, okay?
Forward as a product of the antagonisms which arise in people's thoughts as they have competing values and virtues which fight against each other, and you achieve synthesis, which is ideally an advancement of the idea, right, of the concept.
Okay, yes.
And Marx
Can I
is...
stop you for one moment?
Sure.
Can I stop you for a moment? Okay. So an example of that, I think, and one of the big problems we have on the left today, and a problem that I've seen you have in your discussions, is that we have these hypothetical discussions about what we should do or shouldn't do, or after the revolution, will this happen or will this exist, and blah blah blah. And we construct hypothetical scenarios about the future, and then we think that that's what we should base all of our praxis and activism on. So in other words, we come up with the ideas first, which Engels described as utopianism, Marx and Engels described as utopianism, and then we think like, okay, we've got this perfect vision for where we want to be. Now we have to get from here to there, and we have to dogmatically stay that course. That would be, would you agree that that's an idealist basis for moving a movement forward, a political movement?
I think it's utopian, but I don't think it's a dialectically idealist concept. I think you could frame that belief system through dialectical materialism just fine.
You could frame that system through dialectical materialism. Frame a utopian system, or what do you mean? I don't understand what you mean.
Dialectical materialism is only a mode of analysis. It's a theory to explain the movement, the evolution of human behavior, a society, social developments. You know, you could apply it to anything. You can analyze any system, any society through the lens of dialectical materialism. It doesn't have to be. There isn't like a dialectically materialist way of doing a thing, you know, outside the process of analysis. You can't like make a civilization and go like, this time we'll do it dialectically materially.
The point is that you're putting the cart before the horse if you say this would be a perfect society, and you know, a priori you will find out through praxis what works and what doesn't. That was a big important thing that Marx and Engels pointed out, was that you can only find truth through practice and praxis.
I'm not a utopian. I agree that it is dumb to conceptualize an ideal society and then
so when you conceptualize things with aliens and things that don't happen on planet Earth, that's a useless rhetorical strategy.
Oh my.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. The doctor disagree. I am not gonna have people debating CP in my chat ever. I don't want that in my chat. I don't want people to defend that in my chat ever. Okay? I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in it like with hypotheticals or anything. If we're ever gonna have conversations about like those very serious topics, it needs to be in an extremely, I think, serious tone in nature. I don't want that here. Number one, because you know it's just. And number two, I don't feel like a lot of people can have the conversation responsibly. And so if we do ever have the conversation, it's going to be very, very responsible. I'm going to at least attempt to do that. Lux, thank you so much for the Prime Gaming. You are watching Vaush. Okay. And? Is this a video about child porn? As last time I checked, it isn't. So please, stop.
Oh my God, this is what you were reverting back to? No, okay.
Yes.
So, no. Let me explain. Please listen. This can be instructive, okay? There is a massive
Hey, Frames, how's it going?
difference between framing your pragmatic advocacy for a political system based on a utopian vision of a future that you don't have material conditions to account for, and the construction of a hypothetical to illustrate the dynamics of a moral system. If you read Capital, I promise you will find hypotheticals that are very outlandish.
Hold on. Your whole thing, you believe that you can construct a moral system where you can, you know, beforehand.
I didn't construct it. It's just rule utilitarianism.
You can't. The material conditions determine what is morally acceptable and what's not. When the French resistance were blowing up Nazis, that was okay because of the material conditions they were in. Right? Do you agree with that? But it's not always okay to just go blow people up.
No,
like there
those
are certain
are
material conditions where it's acceptable and somewhere it's not.
Those have nothing to do with each other. No, I'm not a moral relativist. Wait, do you think slavery was moral because back then people thought it was moral?
That's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying.
But that didn't sound like what Noncompete was saying from what I heard.
Material conditions of 16th century agriculture demanded the existence of slavery. Do you think that's moral then? Like what?
That's my point, is that it has I believe my morality stems from dialectical, like, so let me put it this way.
But dialectical materialism isn't a moral system. It's just an analysis of history. Those are okay. These are the people who criticize my philosophy, man.
Here's where you're wrong, because you are conflating empiricism and positivism and determinism with dialectical materialism.
No, that's what Luna was doing.
One of the important things that Marx and Engels pointed out, Vaush, is that through conscious activity, we can impact the material world and we can make changes. And so, for instance, people can liberate themselves by developing mass movements, but they
See, you want to know why the right wins? It's because while we're doing this, okay, they're taking over school boards. Jesus Christ.
have to develop them with an understanding of the material processes of reality. If you try to develop, so for instance, of course, all poor people don't want to be poor anymore, right? But like if you have false consciousness and you don't have a firm grasp on how material processes work and how the world actually develops and how things can develop and how applying your consciousness to material conditions will develop reality. If you don't have that, then you will fail and fail and fail again. That's why Engels and Marx wrote Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific, because they wanted to stop they were organizers, they were activists, they were actually going out, they were members of groups, they were doing things, you know, and they had praxis, and they were so tired of having hypothetical conversations with people.
There's a difference between opposition to constructing a hypothetical entirely and opposition to
God, how long does this part go on? Somebody told me this convo was like 15 minutes. It's been well over 15 minutes.
Idea of basing one's entire political advocacy off of hypotheticals and nothing else. But that's because pragmatic advocacy for a political system and ethical systems are two different things. Hypotheticals are the only things that you can really use to construct a normative ethical system, because you have to isolate, because first of all,
where are you getting this information from? Or is this something you just came up with, or what is this? What are you talking about?
Okay, if you're constructing an ethical system, like, or I guess learning to understand one.
Wait, what's an ethical system? What's a moral system?
A normative process by which you determine whether an action or a person is good or bad. In my case, an action, because I'm not an virtue ethicist.
Okay. And do you think that you can make one moral system that applies in all conditions, or like what are you talking about?
Yeah, the goal would be to construct a normative ethical system that's...
Please, for the love of God, if the Hippy Dippy Championship ever gets close to a conversation like this, tell me to stop it immediately, okay?
Universally applicable. It is a constant subject of debate in philosophy.
That's idealism.
That is not idealism. That's not what idealism means.
It is, because you're saying that you can hypothetically construct. You're saying that, like, if you sat down and thought hard enough, you had a big enough piece of paper and you wrote down enough if-then Boolean logic statements, you could construct exactly what is morally correct in any given situation in your mind.
Well, the difficulty usually isn't whether something is good or bad. It's whether or not we can assemble all the necessary information to determine whether or not it's good or bad. Like, hypotheticals are the easy isolating factor.
That's what Marx and Engels, that was their big breakthrough. That's what made them, they synthesized empiricism and positivism of people like Hume and Ricardo and Smith and the idealism of Hegel. And they realized that there's actually this dialectical relationship between material reality, material conditions, and human consciousness.
That's not a matter of ethics. If we're talking about ethics, you need hypotheticals because they allow you to isolate conditions that you can use to determine the frameworks of your system. If you're only using practical examples for an ethical consideration, then you're post-hocking everything that happens. You're like, well, was that train crash bad? And you're like, well, I don't have a system for this, and you're like working through it. Dialectical materialism is just like this. Dialectical materialism is a system devised to allow us to analyze the world and to provide us a framework for understanding. That's what an ethical...
Marx and Engels, Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific, wrote, the final causes of all social changes and political revolutions are to be sought not in men's brains, but in men's better insights into eternal truth and justice, not in men's better insights into eternal truth and justice, but in changes in the modes of production and exchange. They very specifically said we can't just sit around and think about what's best. We have to go out and apply things in the material world.
That has nothing to do with... Okay, you realize that Marx had a doctorate, right? Like, clearly sitting and thinking is part of the process. I think it's okay to sit down and read out a few hypotheticals to learn an ethical system. Like would you like say this to some kid in kindergarten? Like, you know, action is what we need. Like yes, it's okay to do hypotheticals. It's okay to learn ethical systems. And by the way, rule utilitarianism is really applicable with socialism. It is incredibly naturally, almost intuitively, in line with the moral assertions a person might make to argue in favor of socialism.
Marx and Engels did not just sit around thinking, okay, like in their brains.
We're not
First of
talking
all,
about
they
just
were
sitting
active.
around. Wait, are
Second
you
of
against
all,
the concept
they
of
based-
philosophy?
You have to base your analysis on objective data. And there are two sources of objective data. There's the material world, and then there are objective social relations. That's the way Marx and Engels put it anyway.
Okay, let me test your intuitive system then. Okay? Let's hit it then. Is it wrong to hit a person?
It absolutely depends on the material conditions and the situation and the objective social relations at play. There's no universal
Social
answer to that question.
relations. Okay, I agree. So one
Do you
might
not know
say
objective
that
social relations? Do I need to define that term?
circumstances matter. Yeah, okay, so I agree with that. So let's say, okay, let's use an example where all of the cases are known. You said that I was too vitriolic to Luna. Why is that bad?
I said that you need to look at the evidence that it's being presented to you and
And I
consider
have.
whether you think it's bad or not.
And
I'm
I have.
asking you to apply this kind of analysis to your own platform.
Well, I've done that, but you clearly think it was bad because otherwise you wouldn't take issue with it enough to talk to me about it. You
I
think
it's
I've
bad
acted in error.
because I saw evidence, which is that after you talked about her, not just once, but every time you've done a stream about her, I saw a huge uptick in people throwing racist, vitriolic shit at her
Why is that
that
bad?
she doesn't usually receive on that scale. That's the evidence I presented to you.
Okay, why is
I
that
was
bad?
convinced by that. Excuse me?
Why is that bad?
Why is that bad? Why is that bad? Because a human being suffered as a direct result of actions that you performed.
Do you think that human suffering is always bad? What about when we shot Nazis?
I don't think that Luna. If you think that Luna deserves to suffer, do you think Luna deserves to suffer? Is that your point?
Jesus Christ. My God, the internet, man.
Here by
You're the-
being
wait.
attacked by racists? Is that what you're
one,
saying?
You're the one who said that it was bad because a person suffered. So logically, I extend
You
from that. You
okay.
think when suffering
Yes.
happens,
Are you denying that it's bad that Luna suffered because racists sent racist vitriol at her?
I'm asking you your
Is that good or
positions.
bad?
Why was it bad?
I would say it's definitely bad because
Why?
it's promoting the racist system of white supremacism, which oppresses billions of people around the planet.
Why is that bad?
It is bad because we should seek to liberate all of humanity from oppression.
Why?
So the main point of Marx and Engels is
Now, is Vaush just gonna say why at the end of everything? There better be a point to this because this just seems like this seems completely pointless.
you realize that the main point of dialectical materialism and historical materialism is to free humanity from all class antagonisms so that we can finally begin writing history ourselves. That's basically the way that they put it.
Why did
So
they
that
think that
once-
was worth doing?
Because throughout modern history, or throughout history since class antagonisms arose, let's put it that way, human beings have been driven forward by oppressive relations with the means of production. And that limits humans and it causes a lot of suffering.
I don't
And it
understand these
is-
terms. You already said suffering can be good or bad. Limiting? What makes these things bad? I don't understand.
Okay, limiting oppression, giving people the ability to develop their own material conditions and to have the freedom to do what they want. That's what they talked about in
Why should people
socialism,
have freedom?
utopian and scientific.
Should people have freedom to murder?
Vaush, freedom to live.
It would be nice to have an
You're being
ethical
totally
system you could
obtuse here.
apply to answer these questions, right?
No, okay. A person has the right. This is okay. Let's go back to the material conditions, all right?
He wants him to morally explain why things in the case of the Holocaust were bad. Is that really it? I mean, the answer would be because it caused a massive amount of suffering for a large amount of people and restricted their freedoms and killed them. and you want to reduce the amount of suffering and death and oppression as much as possible, because you want to have the maximum amount of humans generally to have the best amount of outcomes when it comes to having a pleasurable and comfortable life, right? Why? Because God. See? Boom. Being a Christian finally comes in for the W. Got him. Didn't think of that one, did ya?
If you're being oppressed,
But yeah, it's the idea that you want to reduce that suffering for the most amount of people possible.
right? If you're being oppressed and somebody is forcing you to work for them as a slave or a wage earner or whatever, that is a form of exploitation. Okay?
Isn't that their
What is
freedom?
bad? Excuse me?
Isn't that their freedom? You're talking about
Isn't
restricting
that
the
their
freedom of
freedom?
people to do unto others what they will.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're saying that you don't like it when people exercise their freedom to oppress others. You said you value
Okay.
freedom.
Vaush,
That's your utilitarian answer. Well, yeah, people usually say that I'm a utilitarian of some sort. I mean, I do not in all instances, like with firearms and stuff like that. So I did take a philosophy class, and I walked away thinking that I fell under both like a religious connotation, of course, like a religious type of philosophy, because, you know, I'm religious, and like the other one that like came out was like the word utilitarian was like the word my teacher described. And I talked to him about that. He seemed to think that I fit pretty cleanly into.
listen. The fact of the matter is that Marx and Engels believed that exploitation through class antagonism is not good. Do you agree or disagree with that?
We're talking about I agree. I think I'm a Marxist, at least in some respects. But I have an ethical system that informs the reasons why I feel Marxism is worth following.
And what is that?
Rule utilitarianism. Or I guess some people say you can fold that into act utilitarianism. So let's just say utilitarianism. Fine.
But but there's no.
This isn't a matter of idealism. It's a matter.
A debate with you wouldn't need to get to a point here. If a debate with anybody got to a point to this far, like with anybody, I would probably just leave, because I would feel like this is pointless.
Of understanding why we fight for what we fight for. What you're arguing for is intuitive morality, which is exactly what leads to every goddamn pogrom and mass slaughter that's ever happened throughout history. When people post hoc justify what's right or wrong, only the construction of and adherence to moral systems that you can understand can prevent that kind of stuff from happening. And it's why I'm hammering on it right now. I don't like it when you're laughing like, oh, hypotheticals,
material conditions will dictate what's acceptable or not. If and the only way to we have to
Well, of course, material conditions would have an impact on what is morally and not morally acceptable, right? Usually shooting a person is not morally acceptable. But if the person you're shooting is Dylan Roof as he goes and slaughters people, then obviously the conditions there have changed what is morally and not morally acceptable. But doesn't that still falls under like rule utilitarianism, though? You can have rules specifically for caveats, like you don't shoot people unless they are a threat, danger, etc. to other. Like you could.
You against the concept? Do you think you're smarter than like all of like ethics, like the whole philosophy? Like
no, but my
it's like the most complicated.
So okay, if you are, I don't know how.
By the way, if you guys keep doing the like the the cheese pizza stuff in chat, you're just gonna get banned moving forward. Okay? It's actually getting frustrating now. I don't want to talk about it. Okay? Stop.
How to explain this to you? Like you have to look at history, right? That's one way that's one way to look at it. So whenever people have been enslaved, if they rise up and use violence to liberate themselves, then that is probably acceptable because they had material conditions in which violence was being
the Nazis.
Rising up against the Nazis was acceptable. Yes.
No. After World War I, the Nazis claimed that Jewish bankers were holding the country down through.
And that was false consciousness because that wasn't actually happening.
How can you tell?
That was false consciousness. They constructed a moral utilitarian rule that did not align with reality.
They were not utilitarian. Wait, the Nazis were not utilitarian. Careful with that. They were very, very not utilitarian.
The point is that they were their ideology was not aligned with reality.
How can you tell?
Because Jews don't actually control banks in the world.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
All right, Vaush, we're done here. Thank you. Goodbye. This is that's all I need to hear.
You don't have an ethical. Oh my god. I'd run too if I was him. Oh, that was good. God. I can't believe people in my community like that guy.
Why did he? Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I understand what he was trying to do, but why would you? Okay, even in the most good faith interpretation, okay? Why would you say that? Even if what we're saying here is what Vaush was trying to do was see if this guy could at all morally justify his system or whatever, right? Why would you say that? I don't. Does he talk about it at all anymore past this point?
That was funny as hell. You gotta lean into the clips. That's what you gotta lean into. Oh, in case any...
That's a fact. If you can't deal with it, you can't counter Nazis. It's like 1350. It's a fact. It doesn't make fascism right. Okay, I understand what you're saying, right? But if I came up to somebody and I said, hey, racism is bad, and they said, did you know that black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime? Even if that's technically true, the problem is you're just using a talking point in a context where we're talking about whether or not, in this instance, the Nazis were right or not. And then Vaush starts giving reasons for why the Nazis could have been right. I understand the debate tactic there, but it just feels like terrible, like literally the worst possible. No, he doesn't. What do you, Orbatos? Do we gonna have to do this? We'll listen a little bit more. The problem is, okay, whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it anymore because chat, you're frustrating me.
Anyone's curious about what's happening there, that guy was actually too stupid to have a conversation with. He actually thought that the construction of an ethical system and using hypotheticals to understand ethics meant that you were some kind of anti-material idealist. He was dismissing the concept of philosophy. Marx was a philosopher. I mean, like Marx would be like laughing. Yeah.
Okay, Shizbang. Spamming that in my chat is not gonna get an interview. Send me an email at DylanBurnsTV. DylanBurnsTV@gmail.com if you want an interview or something.
Yeah, he couldn't comprehend the idea of an ethical...
You ask if he goes further, and I was responding, no, he doesn't. Okay, got it. Just making sure.
System. Did he learn anything, though? I feel like for a bit there, he got close to understanding. He got close to understanding when I was asking, like, well, why is freedom wrong? Why is suffering bad? So on and so on. Like, yeah. Dishonest or stupid? No, I think I don't know. He might just be stupid. Vaush, give us an actual lesson on rule utilitarianism now, please. I'd like to...
If Vaush was arguing for Nazis, I see your point, but he's teasing out a philosophy. I understand what he was trying to do, but if I was having an in-depth philosophy conversation with somebody, and in the middle of it, they say, oh, the racists are objectively wrong, and I'm like, well, the blacks do commit a disproportionate amount of crime. Even if the point of that was to, like, poke out, like, an answer, all you're doing is giving people clips there. All you're doing is you're taking a racist talking point even if based in reality, in response to somebody saying racist or wrong, or in this instance, Nazi or wrong, and are throwing it out there as a counter to the idea that the Nazis are factually wrong. And so that makes it, even if the point was to poke out a moral justification or a moral system or whatever the fuck, who cares, right? What it produces is just absolutely dreadful PR and a very vile, violation of normal theory. If you guys don't know what normal theory is, this is a theory I've produced here for a political twitch, okay? And what political twitch is, and this is why I say Vaush and Destiny are more alike than people think, in both communities like to admit. What normal theory is a theory I've produced which says that 90% of the issues on political Twitch and political YouTube comes from our inability to be normal. And when I say that, I don't mean like a go to heteronormative blah blah blah. I mean N-word debates and pedophilia shit and that what just happened. That's what I mean. 90%. Thanks, chat. It's called content. Thank you. Being normal is terrible content, though? Yes, that is true. I will say, that can be true. But I feel like the normal I'm talking about is within acceptability within society normal when it comes to issues of like, not having like weird race debates or weird child pornography debates. Did Vaush do pedo shit? What? Not that there is no evidence. Okay, I already said this earlier that it was going to result in bans. So I'm just going to do You're just going to be timed out for an hour, so you're gone for the rest of this stream, okay? To understand normal, we need to more for the abnormal. The Normal Dormy podcast. Amen. I just wish we could have more normal hypotheticals. Because I feel like most of the problems Vaush actually is facing online from being like acceptable is the fact that his hypotheticals are so fucking out there. And I don't think that he would have stopped his growth to the same extent. He would have like slowed his growth that much if his hypotheticals were just more like normal. Let me listen to any more if he has anything else insightful here to say.
To see how you'd answer these questions. Dude, this is so easy, man. It's so easy, okay? So, as a moral anti-realist...
Okay. I will say it makes it not as bad since he goes straight into after explaining why Nazism is wrong, okay? I understand the point. Come on, load. Load. Not loading. Terrible computer. A return to normalcy, Nodders. Amen. A return to normalcy. That's my platform for political Twitch.